Why is my yogurt separating? This might be a question that you're asking yourself when you go and you follow a yogurt recipe A to Z, and for some reason it's not actually setting into that well-known yogurt gel protein matrix. Sometimes it separates into curds and whey, where you have that fatty part floating on top and you have the liquid whey on the bottom. What's happening and what can you do to make this problem go away? Now, these tips I'm going to talk about won't be necessary for someone that already has good yogurt and that has success with their specific technique. My tips might seem like overkill, but for someone that is struggling with having their yogurt separating into curds and whey, these tips I really highly encourage you trying and then coming back and saying if it worked or if it didn't work. Please be mindful that this is going to be for dairy milk-based yogurts. This does not stand for coconut, soy, rice, any other plant alternative milk will not be in this type of subject because we're going to be talking about milk proteins. So proteins from a dairy animal. That being said, if you already have a successful yogurt culture and you want to try out these tips, you're more than welcome to try and see maybe it will improve the texture, maybe it will improve the mouthfeel or how well the yogurt sets when it comes out of the incubation chamber / oven. The two main reasons why yogurt separates is because of improper heating of the milk for not long enough and not at a high enough temperature, and over fermentation. Now, if your yogurt is separating into curds and whey, my first recommendation is the next time you make yogurt is to properly heat your milk to denature the whey proteins. What that means is heat your milk up to 180 degrees, then set a timer for 10 to 20 minutes. Yes, this will pasteurize your milk. That is not the reason why we are doing this. We are doing this to cook the milk. The milk needs to be cooked farther. There needs to be evaporation, and you need to cook the proteins. The whey protein is the protein that we are trying to cook. We're going to denature it. And once that protein has relaxed, it'll be a lot easier for your yogurt to set. So what I will usually do when I am making, and this will be dairy yogurt, of course, is I'll heat my milk up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit and I will turn the heat off, and then it'll sit, it'll steam, and then I'll go back in like 10 minutes and I'll turn it back on again to a low flame, bring it back up to 180, maybe it'll dip to 175, and then I'll kill it again, and then I'll wait another 10 minutes, and then that'll be my 20 minutes just about, or whatever works for you in that sense. It just needs to be around 180 for 10 to 20 minutes. So let's touch on pasteurization because I know it's a common concern. Common pasteurization happens at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, not 180, so there's a difference there, for 15 seconds. That will kill the microbes. That's good. It will get started with protein cooking. It will not complete the protein cooking, but it will get it started. And so sometimes that is sufficient for some people to make yogurts, but for someone that's having a hard time with yogurt separating, it won't be enough and they'll need more help. Shelf-stable or sterilized milk that you usually can find in Europe, so where I am in France, I can find milk on the shelf, not refrigerated. That is heated to about 284.5 degrees Fahrenheit or 140 degrees Celsius for 2 to 5 seconds. Now, yes, that is a high temperature and it is good to help sterilize the milk completely, but 2 to 5 seconds is not comparable to 20 minutes at a 180 degree Fahrenheit temperature. Holding your milk at that temperature is really a surefire way to make sure that all of your whey proteins are denatured. So next, let's talk about over fermentation. When you are making any type of like dairy ferment, there's going to be a specific time and temperature range that needs to be respected. Going farther than that will result in an over fermentation. Going not enough will of course result in under fermentation. Under fermentation, your yogurts, your cheese, your whatever won't have set enough, and you'll be left with an unfermented product that you're making. Over fermentation is overshooting, going too far. You've gone past the point of microbial help, and it will start to separate. Now, this is consistent with almost all forms of dairy fermentation, whether it be milk kefir or any types of like yogurts or even cheeses. So yogurt, traditional yogurt, is made with Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus. You also have probiotic yogurts like reuteri or actual probiotics, and those are different types of yogurts. They are still relevant to the conversation, and they still will require the same type of respecting the milk heating process and respecting the time and temperature range for your actual yogurt to be successful and not separate into curds and whey. So over fermentation, when you put a previous batch of yogurt into milk and you incubate it, you're going to have bacteria that are going to act on the sugars in the milk. So much so, they will do it to their own detriment. They are going to acidify the milk. When the milk has a preferred pH range, the milk will go from a liquid into a solid yogurt texture. Keep going and it'll keep getting more and more solid, and eventually it'll separate into curds and whey. Now, this is going to be a public service announcement, a PSA for the general public regarding yogurts. More acid is not better. A lower pH is not better. The correct pH is best. When you keep going past the point of set yogurt and it starts to separate, you will lose CFUs, colony forming units, and you will technically degrade the quality of your yogurt culture. Full stop. No exceptions. That's how it works. Bacteria, like all other microorganisms in this entire universe that exists, have a preferred pH range. If you yogurt cultures, probiotics, they're going to have a preferred range of above a 4.0 and below, I'd say around a 4.5, 5.0 even. They survive and do really well. Milk kefir, for example, will have an acidified pH. Yogurt will have an acidified pH, but there's a big difference between having yogurt, which is a 4.5 about pH, and having a 3.0 acidic. It's too acidic. If it's too acidic, the bacteria cannot live, and they are literally actively dying in your ferment because the environment's too acid, and it will not proliferate, and you will degrade the bacterial surrounding, and they won't continue to live. Yes, if you were to pull that, acid yogurt out of the fermentation chamber and you were to measure it at that point, maybe your colony forming units would be high, but when you put that same yogurt in the fridge and you let it sit for 24 hours, well, that environment is so acid, your CFUs, your colonies, the bacterial load in your yogurt is going to literally plummet. It's going to plummet because the bacteria cannot survive in too acidic of an environment. They like a proper acidity level, just like how your stomach has a proper acidity level, your intestines has a proper acidity level. This is how you get to have a well-supported bacterial community in your fermentation projects, whether it be yogurt, sauerkraut, a ginger bug, or anything. There is a preferred pH range for the bacteria to do well in. Now, people may be thinking, but Matthew, I want more colony-forming units, more CFUs in my diet. Eat more fermented foods. It's not a hard answer. Don't degrade the quality of your yogurt. Don't have crappy yogurt just because you want more CFUs, you want more bacteria in your gut. Eat more yogurt. That's an easy answer. Or, honestly, because if you're doing a type of probiotic yogurt, you're only getting that specific probiotic. You need to have a diet that actually has a wide variety of microbes. You need to have sauerkraut, you need to have milk kefir, you need to have maybe a ginger bug, you need to maybe have raw milk or even raw carrots. Raw foods have raw microbes. That's how you influence your gut microbiome. The pH of your yogurt should be good at a 4.5 pH. That's what its preferred pH range is. For example, I have high quality L. reuteri yogurt right here that I made. Actually, I made this like 5 days ago. Let's look. Okay, it smells cheesy. Do you see how well that's set? This is what happens when you respect the milk proteins and the proper heating technique and the proper types of respecting the pH. The reason why I'm doing this, let's measure the pH of this yogurt right here. pH strip, we're not going to touch the fatty upper layer. We're going to touch the, because you have cream that rises to the top. Oh, that's good. Looks like we're at about a 4.5. That's good. Honestly, perfect. And that's how you make a consistent product every single time. If I had this right here, what's on my spoon, I can use this to inoculate future batches. And this is 5 days old, and this is still holding well. This is not separated. My bacteria are surviving in my refrigerator, in my healthy environment. If it was too acidic, this would have started to separate and it would have turned, or there would have been mold on the top. This is still good. I can use this yogurt to keep going and inoculate future batches. Same thing with regular yogurt. Same thing with other types of ferments. You want to respect what the bacteria prefers and what the food science is behind the specific food that you're trying to make. Let's actually have a bite. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. You want to have a yogurt that's good. If your yogurt is separating into curds and whey, well, I don't want that. That doesn't sound good to me. That doesn't sound appetizing. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for the ferment that you're making. All right, so let's put this down and we're going to go back to understanding whey protein denaturation. So when we have yogurts, milk, you're going to have a set of proteins that are in this milk. You're going to have casein protein and you're going to have whey protein. Casein protein, you're going to have a bunch of, this is the imagery that I'm going to use. You're going to have a bunch of casein molecules on the inside. These are fatty, mineral dense types of molecules on the inside. And there's going to be a nice coating on the outside that helps these fatty casein molecules float inside the milk, and which is why the milk is going to be a fatty, carb, and protein-rich drink. This is going to have a sulfur bond on the outside, which is going to be important for later on. You're going to have mainly casein in your milk. When you look at cheese, that is the casein molecules that have acidified and solidified. Milk, the casein in milk has an isoelectric point of a 4.6 in pH. What does that mean? That means that when the casein in milk hits 4.6 in pH in acidity, the milk will go from a liquid and it will start to congeal into a solid. You want that congealing factor to be controlled so that you get a nice yogurt protein, casein protein matrix. You want a nice yogurt protein matrix. Next, whey protein. Whey protein is what we are trying to denature. We're trying to cook. We're trying to relax. Your whey protein in the unheated state is going to be like a flour. It's going to be this closed flour. I made a little flour. It's going to be closed up like a flower. That's going to be ready to bloom. It's going to look like this, and it's going to be free floating in the milk. And so as it free floats in the milk, nothing will happen. And if left untreated, eventually, especially in raw milk, it will separate into curds will float on the top, and you'll have your whey, undenatured whey proteins. If I put my milk in a stock pot and I heat it gently to 180 degrees, just like a flower, it'll bloom the whey protein will bloom and it will open, and you're going to get the beta lactoglobulin. So that's what this type of whey protein is. The beta lactoglobulin is going to open up like this, and it will expose this center sulfur molecule. Now, sulfur is a very smart type of compound that's attached on this beta lactoglobulin, and it wants to do something. It doesn't like to be open and then not interact. It is absolutely going to always interact. And so what's going to happen is that it will match up with other ones of these and will sandwich together like this, and it will create a disulfide bond. It'll create a sulfur-sulfur bond. Sulfurs like to be together. They don't like to be alone. They want to always react. And so what you're also going to get is these now opened up whey proteins are going to say, oh, I want to attach something. I want a friend. It's going to lay on top of these casein molecules. Now, if I were to take this and multiply it by 20, 100, 1,000, a million, however many I'm making, when you put these all together and you have these nice, beautiful casein proteins that are being wrapped around with these guys, you're going to create a protein matrix that you find in yogurt. So, backing up, milk heated up to 180. These guys open. These guys are unchanged. These casein proteins are stable. The afterwards, so once it's going to cool down, these guys are going to be free floating. They're going to be looking for things to attach to. It'll start attaching to the casein protein. You now have your yogurt culture inoculated into your milk. The milk will start to acidify from the bacteria. It'll go from maybe like a 6.5 pH of neutral milk, and it'll acidify down to a 4.6. At 4.6, the casein is going to start to solidify. It's the isoelectric point. It'll solidify with this guy on it, and when you have a bunch of these all attached to one another, it'll create that nice protein matrix. Then that is your correct yogurt temperature fermentation range, that correct time and temperature range. If you go past that, the bacteria will continue to acidify here. And if you go too far past, eventually this bond, this sulfur-sulfur bond too acidic, it'll degrade and this bond will weaken and it will start to re-separate again. And so this bond is dependent on the pH of your fermented product. If it gets too acidic, it separates into curds and whey again. And this is why you don't want to over ferment your yogurt past its preferred pH range of 4.6 to, I wouldn't go past, honestly, like a 4.3. Too far past that, it gets to be too acidic and your colony won't do as well as it sits in the fridge waiting for you to eat it. So to summarize, if your yogurt is separating into curds and whey, what you can do is make sure that your milk cooking process to denature and open up these whey proteins is at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees Celsius for 10 to 20 minutes so that enough of these guys are open so that they can react onto these casein molecules to create protein matrix. So cook the milk. That's why. And then to make sure to monitor, pay attention to your yogurt as it's fermenting. Once it is set in the jar and it looks good, you want to then pull it out. If you go too far past, you're going to create too acidic of an environment and it won't survive in the refrigerator. And you'll have a harder time creating future batches from your yogurts. That is then too acidic. So heat the milk and properly ferment your product and you will have a good long-lasting yogurt culture that will last for generations and generations. Now, if you like, I did create a blog post that's associated to this YouTube video. Feel free to check it out on my website, ChrisDietetics.com. I'll link it in the description, and I want to thank you so much for watching. If you have other questions, or if you'd like for me to dive deeper into other areas within the yogurt making or fermentation process, let me know in the comment section below. And I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.